All right, morning everyone. Welcome to another episode of Market Trading. I'm your host, Tone Vays. Hope everybody had a great weekend. Man, this was my last grilling barbecue of the summer. And those of you with Instagram that follow me on Instagram would have seen all of my barbecue and hangout weekend this weekend. And it's my last couple of days in the woods. And it's time to head back into the city and then off to traveling. All right, let's go to the charts. Where are the charts? Here it is. All right, happened to be on my personal website. So those of you that are interested in trading, check out the free learn trading section. There is also products and services, on-demand videos, and the MRI indicator. Get that out of the way now. So we are coming up on a monthly MRI top. If I switch this to candles, you will see we're working on a doji candle right now. If I drop everything else, there we go. Here are the monthly candles. We are coming up on an MRI sell, but here's the good news. The MRI sell is coming in within consolidation. So unless the MRI sell candle looks something like the MRI sell candle from December of 2020, I will continue to view the current consolidation as bullish. Consolidations after run-ups are bullish. Consolidations after drops, like here, are bearish. So this MRI buy happened inside consolidation, and the next candle continued consolidation. So consolidations after a long drop are bearish. Consolidations after a long, a big rise are bullish. And an MRI like this is a lot more bearish for me than an MRI in consolidation when it hits a top. But when you have a candle that shows no sign of reversal, I remain bullish at the top of that candle. I know this is a little complicated, but if the MRI top happened on the candle that followed it, I would be very, very bullish because this to me is a negative candle. It's very, very likely that this candle will have a negative tone-based volume, which I still need to release. I know a lot of people are asking me for it. The Financial Summit research team they're going to get on that. We're still trying to get that up and running. So if I look for a tone-based volume, where the hell is tone-based volume? Shit. We have to go to my scripts. How's my volume indicator? Oh, tone volume. I should put a star on that. Tone-based volume. It did. Look at that. Check that out. See? So according to the tone-based volume indicator, right here, that's your candle, right there. Okay. This candle had a large negative volume spike, and that would have made me bearish. Now, I would have been wrong, but at the time, I would have been very, very cautious. And I might not have taken profit off of this MRI sell, but I absolutely would have taken profit off of that MRI sell. And then I could have gotten back in towards the second half of next month's candle if I'm trading monthly charts. I don't normally trade monthly charts. I prefer to trade the weekly charts. I'm going to drop this volume on. It's not really needed. I don't really trade monthly charts. We just use the monthly charts as a guide for longer term pictures. And I'm expecting next month to be a nice bullish month. Weekly and a 4-day is a lot more tradable. Now, from a weekly perspective, this is looking promising. It's looking like it's about to have another green week. That's 2 green weeks in a row, though I'm really waiting for the green star candle on the weekly MRI. Alpha Numerics has you bullish in the trade, but not the MRI. The MRI is still telling you to be very cautious as we're coming off a red star candle. We'll need a few more weeks to get to a green star candle. So probably going into September, we can have a nice green star candle, and hopefully it's a green star candle just like the last two green star candles, which were monsters. They didn't lead to much more upside. All the upside happened in the green star candle. But if we go up slow and steady into this purple line, which is sitting at $30,500, we can then break out from 30,500 all the way to 34,000. Easily see that. What about our allocation? Well, our allocation is actually looking promising. We have 2.5 days to go. If the current week is simply a consolidated week, then next week will allow me to enter 100% bullish position. Because next week, if the price of Bitcoin goes above 30,000 next 4-day candle, it would be above all the moving averages. They would all, well, almost all of them would be rising. The long term would be rising. The short term would be rising. Only the intermediate term would not be rising. And they would all be above each other. So that at least warrants an 80% bullish position, if not all the way into 100. Okay. Let's move on. Oh, Financial Summit. Financial Summit is taking place in the UAE. We are in Dubai. Amazing event for traders, money managers, VCs, high net worth. We have that trading contest. It's a lot of fun. Come and join us at the Financial Summit in Dubai. Other than that, come hang out with us at a Bitcoin event down in Las Vegas. Where's my picture? Let's see. I think we have one more carnivory seat left at $300. After that, the prices rise. I will check that out probably later today. I'll see. I gotta I don't want it to stay unsold. I may be raising the price real quick. So last seat left. Go ahead and grab it. Oh, I already added it to the cart. You hit that button, you add it to cart, then you click the cart in the corner or view shopping cart. Daily chart. We're starting off today very, very nicely. Yesterday was a red star candle. We started trading lower today. Didn't expect much today, but so far so good. Just like the last green star candle, I did not go long at all on this up move. I needed this up move to prove to me that it's sustainable. It proved to me that it wasn't sustainable, so I was right. No, Mel, I don't want to tell people where the carnivory dinner is. I don't want people crashing it. It's a really, really good place. It's my favorite steakhouse in downtown Las Vegas. It's really my favorite. It's my favorite one. So we have a meeting with them next week. Just gonna lock it in. That dinner is not gonna be cheap. Okay. So for me right now, I need a new daily close, and then I'll be confident. A new daily close, get above the 50 period moving average, and that would be the perfect area. So everything seems to be 30,000. The next time we go above 30,000, if we close at $30,200, that's enough for me to be super bullish at that point. 4-hour chart's not interesting. GBTC, let's talk about grayscale. Huh. Let me refresh. Heart attack grill. Yeah. You know what? Maybe. Hey, if Bitcoin is if next year Bitcoin is lower than it is right now, our carnivory dinner might be at Heart Attack Grill, which would be pretty cool, actually. Like if Bitcoin doesn't go up, we may have to downgrade. But Heart Attack, I've actually never been to Heart Attack Grill. I really need to go. So GBEC discount. Once Bitcoin pops from 30,000 to 35,000, I'm expecting this discount to be less than 20%. Now, what about oil? Oh man, I can't wait for this week's oil numbers. Last week's candle was a nice doji candle at resistance. We're coming up on an MRI weekly soon. On a daily scale, I believe we had a daily MRI top. We pulled back, and now we're working on another MRI top. So, but we will need to, there it is. See the warning arrow? See that MRI warning arrow? It's coming in and out because the price is fluctuating a bit. So let's see if we get that warning arrow, and then the price of oil spikes tomorrow, creating an MRI top. It won't be second consecutive. It'll be an independent MRI top. So it will kick off another set of extensions. But we are sitting right at resistance. And I think this resistance is going to break. Oh, if I can leave the buns uneaten, then spanked by who? That actually matters. That matters a lot, motorist. Anyway, so I'm still bullish on oil, though it does need a little bit of a break. Natural gas. Natural gas. I'm still bullish on natural gas. This was a potential trade on natural gas. It almost came back and hit the break-even stop loss area, but now it's looking better. Moving average is rising, so I would love to see this hit a new high. I still think natural gas is going to hit its larger moving average. I don't know why anyone would ever hold AMC. It's a failed company. It's no different than a shitcoin. Gold. No, is this gold? Yeah, it's gold. Look at that. Gold daily. Gold daily is coming up on an MRI buy tomorrow. So once again, gold becomes a buying opportunity tomorrow based on a daily MRI. Look at it the last time it had a daily MRI, and here's a daily MRI top where we topped in mid-July, and then there was end of June, there was a daily MRI buy coming right off the low and a reversal candle. So here we are again, and we are coming up on the long-term moving average as well. Alpha Metrics is bearish, but that's okay. The daily chart of gold is really flip-floppy. I still think gold is bullish as long as it doesn't break the lows of June. And the daily, let's see, the daily MRI buy is coming, but the weekly red star candle is coming. So they are in complete conflict with each other. Here's our weekly S&P. We started off the week nicely. Now the S&P is also on a daily MRI buy right now today. So at the least, I'm expecting a 1 to 4 candle correction to the upside. And then we reevaluate the situation. If we then go down, then the situation looks more like this. This is one potential path. This is one potential path. And then the low is going to be somewhere around 4,400. Let me see on a weekly scale. Oh, interesting. So on a weekly scale, it's just 44. Yeah, but right now it's 44.80. This is the futures. Also 44.80. Oh, okay. So the weekly has 4,000. Okay. No, that's 43.80. So about 100 points lower. So about 4,400, 43.80. And on a daily scale, yep, that's somewhere over here. somewhere in this area. So that's one potential path. The other potential path is we keep going. We keep going off the MRI buy daily, and then it turns into a weekly. So that's the other path. So let's see which way we go. Right now, I would be a bull of the S&P. Let's see if we reversed at 10 a.m. 10-minute chart. Let's see if there was a 10 a.m. reversal. And a smidge lower. So let's see. Here's the 10 a.m. candle. It was a green star candle on a 10-minute chart, though I don't really care about the MRI on a short-term time scale. So where did the low come in? The low came in on a 940 candle. The 950 candle, which closed at 10 a.m., already gave you a new high for the day, close on a 10-minute scale, and then it took off. So not a perfect 10 a.m. reversal, but within 10 minutes. Within 10 minutes of 10 a.m., you got your reversal. Yeah, I mean, I got rid of a bunch of physical silver. Gold's okay. If you want to hold gold, I'm not gonna talk you out of holding gold, but I will talk you out of holding silver. So if you want to exchange your silver for gold, I'm okay with that. Let me see the ratio. The gold silver ratio historical. See, this is the historical gold silver ratio. It hit an all-time high. I mean, we're talking 100-year high. We hit it just a few years ago in 2020. We hit a new all-time high in gold silver ratio. And for some reason, people think we're going to go here. Like this wasn't the historic low. The 2011 wasn't the historic low. The historic low came in 1979 and in 1968. And I believe the gold silver ratio is going to go way higher. So you can go ahead and wait and take your chances that there will be another low in the gold silver ratio. I don't believe there will be. You'd have to get very lucky. And you can see how the gold silver ratio, after hitting its all-time high in May 2020, came down to 64 in February 2021. It made a new top at 95 in September of last year, and now we're sitting at 85 going into September of this year. So I would wait too long, because the next thing you know, the gold silver ratio is going to be at 150, somewhere up there. So don't wait too long. I mean, I'm not saying don't believe in precious metals. I'm just saying silver is a shitcoin. It is like Litecoin. Well, no, gold silver ratio is not at the highs. I don't think it's ever coming down. I don't think it's ever going to be 30. I think you'll be lucky if you take out this low. 65? I think you'll be lucky if you get below 65 on the gold silver ratio. Things do move in cycles, but even cycles have a direction, right? Like almost nothing moves in cycles without upwards bias or downward bias, right? Like Bitcoin also moves in cycles, but it rises. The gold silver ratio also moves in cycles, but it rises. And by the way, the rise started here in the pretty much in the 60s. This was different. This was the gold price was fully controlled, and also electronic modern banking with computers, didn't really exist. So that's what I mean. Like silver is just not necessary anymore for money. All right, let's get out of here. Oh, stock market's still rising, looking good. Yeah, MRI buy on a daily. This would be a very critical day for me to buy that 10 a.m. low. It would have been great buying the 10 a.m. low on a day where you were expecting bullishness. How's your ruble trade? Well, I'm not actually in the ruble trade, but funny that you mentioned that. Here's the ruble. The ruble is fairly weak right now, and it's a combination of two things. One, Ukraine is doing pretty well on the battlefield. Yeah, I do believe the ruble will be stronger, but right now, a weak ruble actually helps Putin and his. So, how do I explain it? From the Russian perspective of the Russian finance minister and Putin, by the way, Putin has a PhD in economics, so he's not an idiot when it comes to the economy. Like, unlike every American politician who's a lawyer, uh, Putin's expertise is in economics. That's what he studied, PhD in economics. And this here is bad. That's bad from the perspective of Putin's economy. This is actually good. It's not great for the Russian citizens, but it's really good for Putin himself and the Russian industry, which sells goods overseas. So a weaker currency creates demand for your exports. And the one thing Russia doesn't want is to go into debt. Russia doesn't want to run a deficit. Russia wants to run a surplus. So with the Russian currency weakening, China and India want to buy more Russian shit. And that allows Russia to function without having to borrow money, something the United States can't do. Now, the other contributing factor to this is how well Ukraine has been doing on the battlefield lately. For like the Ukrainian offensive is actually like they're not acquiring any land. Like it's really it's another one of these complicated things where America is very frustrated with the Ukrainian offensive because it hasn't gone anywhere. But what a Ukrainian offensive has done is it evened out the kill ratio between Russians and Ukrainians. So it's also bad for the Russians, right? So the Ukrainian offensive is bad for everyone. It's bad for Russia because it looks like Ukraine is kicking ass. It's bad for America because they have hyped up this offensive and they sent Ukraine all this money and all these weapons, and yet Ukraine hasn't been able to move a single kilometer into the zone that Russia had. So US is pissed. Russia is obviously pissed because a lot more Russians are dying and Ukraine is actually kicking some ass. They're just not able to take any land because they're just not strong enough to do that. And the Ukrainians are very angry at this because they're losing a lot more people they were before, but at least they're not, getting their ass kicked. At least they're killing as many Russians as Ukrainians are dying, but the number of Ukrainians are dying is greater than before this offensive. So the Ukrainians are dying at a faster rate. Russians are dying 3 times faster. Ukrainians are dying a little bit faster. And no land is being transferred from Russia to Ukraine. So everyone is pissed. But it's being reflected in the Russian currency. See, it can't be reflected in the Ukrainian currency because the Ukrainian currency doesn't have a free market. There is no free market in Ukraine. Like, there's no elections, there is no free speech, there is nothing. Like, though people in Kiev are partying. I was just chatting with someone who's in Kiev, went there. He's not Ukrainian, but speaks the language. Well, speaks Russian. I don't. He doesn't speak Ukrainian. He had an apartment there. He used to live there. He's like, yeah, I've been here for 10 days. It's great. Partying, clubs are open, bars are open. Kiev is fun, which also pisses off the United States that Ukraine is like, it's like nothing's going on. Yeah, so the Ukrainian currency does not reflect this, right? Like if Ukrainian currency was freely traded, honestly, I don't think there would be a Ukrainian currency right now. I think it would have hyperinflated by now. It would have been like Venezuela. But the Ukrainian currency is being controlled by the United States. That's why it doesn't trade. There's no free market in Ukrainian currency. But yeah, in the meantime, the ruble is devaluing. And while it's bad for Russians living in Russia who want to travel to, say, Thailand or Turkey or Dubai and spend some money, their ruble is now significantly weaker since the Ukrainian offensive began. The Ukrainian offensive started early July or late June, and the Russian ruble has devalued almost 25% since the Ukrainian offensive began, because it is, it's hard for me to use the word effective, but it's been a problem for Russia. Hey, I'm just relaying what I'm hearing. People are still going to Kiev and they're going out and partying. That's all I can say. I'm not there. I'm not going. Well, I'm getting my news from this map, right? Like Ukraine's doing well, as in they're not losing additional territory. That's well for Ukraine. That's well. It's all relative. Like for me, Ukraine doing well means they're not losing more ground. For some people, Ukraine doing well means that they're partying in Moscow and have, dethroned Putin and taken Crimea back. So it's all relative, right? Like I'm surprised that Russia has not taken more territory, right? So for me, Russia not being able to take more territory is defined as Ukraine doing super well, because I had very low confidence as to what Ukraine can actually do in this counteroffensive. Now, some people that expected Ukrainians to be toasting that they took Crimea back, to them, Ukraine is doing super poorly. So it depends on your perspective and what your definition of well is. Yeah, it's hard to tell what videos are real, which videos are not real. Poland's got their own mountain of stupid to deal with. So I'm not sure what the hell is going on over there. The Poland situation is complicated. The people of Poland don't want the Polish government to get involved in the Russia-Ukraine mess. The Polish government wants their land back, because this west piece of Ukraine used to be Poland, and so was a piece of Belarus. They ain't getting that back. So if Poland decides to go into Ukraine to take their land back, even if Ukrainians allow them to do it, like Ukraine says, sure, Poland, come in. We would love your 100,000 troops, and you can even have a piece of this land back. Russia will not be happy. Like, I don't know, they can bomb the shit out of Warsaw and Krakow if they want. I mean, they will somewhat be justified to do that, right? Because NATO suddenly got involved in the war, and therefore Russia can fight back. This is basically how World War II started. Like a giant ant on my laptop. And it can happen, but we'll see. The people of Poland are not going to be happy about this. So Poland wants a chunk of Ukraine. Ukraine may just give it to them because Ukraine is very, very interested in Russia fighting Poland, though I'm not sure why, because it would happen over their land. So we'll see. If Russia starts fighting Poland, then everyone gets involved. Lithuania will be completely annihilated in that case. So the Lithuanians are starting to back off a bit. Well, yeah, see, World War II is tricky. So after World War I, Poland had a piece of Germany, and Germany kind of wanted it back, but Poland wasn't going to give it back. And then Poland cut off, they stopped the transportation of goods. They kind of did an embargo, sort of, on Germany, similar to what Lithuania did to Kaliningrad. See, this is Russia, Kaliningrad. So Latvia and Lithuania, well, more so Lithuania, stopped allowing Russia to transfer goods into their own land over here. So far, Russia has done it by ship, supplying Kaliningrad right here. But eventually, Russia might get pissed, and they will tell Lithuania, either you open up the railroad track that goes through Belarus. I mean, Belarus doesn't have a problem with it, right? Like, either you open up the railroad track so we can supply our people with goods and services, or there will be no Lithuania. Russia might just do that if Lithuania doesn't get their shit together. And there ain't nothing NATO is going to do about it. It's actually irrelevant that NATO exists in Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. Because, I mean, Lithuania can sit on their high horse and say, well, we're in NATO, you can't destroy us. And Russia can destroy you and then deal with NATO later. So it's a great horse to sit on if the horse exists. Right. Look, Poland is part of NATO. Lithuania is part of NATO. Okay. What I'm saying is, if Russia decides to annihilate Lithuania, Krakow, and Warsaw in a weekend, which they can, I mean, they have the missiles to do it, right? What is NATO going to do about it is the question, right? Is Joe Biden ready to trade New York, Washington, and LA for Moscow? Is it worth it? Is it worth it? So basically, joining NATO is a military alliance. It either adds security to your nation or it removes security from your nation, right? Either it makes your country more likely to have security and survive into the future for your people, or it makes your country more vulnerable to full annihilation and destruction. And for a country like Lithuania, and for a country like Finland, being in NATO removes security for their country. It doesn't add security for their country. Same thing with Latvia. Okay. Well, see, there's a lot more Russians in Latvia. So where Latvia is not going to do anything stupid. Just like in Ukraine, right? There was a lot of Russians in Ukraine, but Ukraine still did something stupid. But Latvia may not do anything stupid. But having NATO in Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, like, again, NATO either gives your country protection, or it puts your country in the first path of complete annihilation and destruction. So if Russia was really put into a corner and they wanted to test if NATO actually has any balls, the country that's probably going to get annihilated would be Lithuania, with Latvia getting out of the way. And then they're going to call Washington and say, are we going to exchange Moscow for New York? Or are you guys going to disband NATO? So when a country decides to enter NATO, they really need to be careful as to whether being in NATO adds security to their country, or it puts their country, creates an enemy with a bigger nation. And I'm pretty sure that if Lithuania got annihilated, Washington is not going to trade Washington for Moscow over Lithuania. So if I was Lithuania, I'd be getting the hell out of NATO and becoming neutral. Neutrality will go well. Like neutrality certainly helped Switzerland during World War II. So otherwise, there would have been no Switzerland. So neutrality can go a long way. West Ukraine wasn't neutral during World War II, by the way. They were on the side of Germany because Hitler promised them their own country, which they eventually got anyway. Not being in NATO did not help Ukraine. No, it's the opposite. Ukraine was in NATO unofficially. Ukraine has the biggest NATO trained army. So how can you say NATO wasn't in Ukraine? They weren't in NATO on paper, but they were certainly in NATO, just not on paper, which is worse than being on paper. At least on paper, you know where you stand. Ukraine had the biggest army in Europe trained by NATO. How can you say Ukraine wasn't in NATO? They were in NATO in everything but signed on paper. Right, that's the thing, right? You're not just trading New York for Moscow. You're trading New York and Washington and like 5 other big cities. For Moscow. Is it worth it? I don't think it's worth it. The the fighting in Georgia also started in 2008 when Georgia announced they're going to get into NATO. See, it's these announcements that these countries are going into NATO is what caused Russia to react. And by the way, the same thing would have happened with Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. The problem was these countries announced it in 2004, and Russia was a complete mess because Russia, the ruble collapsed in like early 2000s, and like Russia had a huge like economic problem. They still had a huge corruption problem, way bigger than today. Like Russia was in no position to tell these countries no when they joined NATO. But 4 years later, when America thought, well, Russia didn't send their military into these 3 countries in 2004. So what's the big deal? Let's get these 2 countries in 2008. And after 2004, Russia said, there is no way you are putting another country into NATO on our border. So in 2008, when Georgia and Ukraine announced they were going to be joining NATO, Russia said, okay, let's leave Ukraine alone for now. They're a little bit bigger and they're closer to us as far as like cousins go. So let's show Georgia we're serious. So that's why the Georgian military got annihilated in 2 weeks by the Russian military, and no one came to help Georgia. And they're like, okay, maybe Ukraine gets the message that we're not going to allow them to enter Ukraine based on what happened in Georgia. And I love Georgia, my favorite country. And nope, that didn't help. That the message wasn't sent to Ukraine, and Ukraine kept trying to join NATO, and here we are. All right, I'm not even sure how we got on the Ukraine topic. Oh, talk about the Russian ruble. So again, from my perspective, Ukraine is doing really, really well in this counteroffensive. A lot better than I thought they would. Hence, the Russian ruble is losing some confidence around the world. Though, by the way, it is very difficult for Russia to do what I did. Like, for example, annihilate these countries, because then countries like India and China may not be as friendly. Like, because India and China are, contrary to what the US tries to portray about China, China doesn't want any military confrontations. And neither does India, even though they do kind of battle with each other a bit. But like, China is not going to be happy if Russia did that. India is not going to be happy if Russia did that. Brazil, like the BRIC nations, like the Middle East, is not going to be happy if Russia does that. So in order for Russia to do something like wipe out Lithuania or Poland, they would actually need to meet with China, India, and Brazil, and probably Saudis. I mean, Iran will say go for it, so they don't care. Turkey is also an issue. Putin is trying to work out his issues with Erdogan. The problem with Turkey is if Russia pisses off Turkey too much, Turkey has the fourth biggest military in the world or something. It's right there behind Russia, China, and US, not in that order. But so Russia doesn't want to piss off Turkey too much, because that opens up the straits for American Navy. That also opens up the entire Turkish military, which is massive, against Russia. So Russia wants to keep Turkey happy. They want to keep China happy, because I don't think China is ready to send their military to fight in Europe. They want to keep India happy. So Russia's fear is not America. Russia's biggest fear is that their biggest trading partners that are keeping their economy alive might turn their back on them if they do something rash, like destroy Warsaw. But if the Polish go in, they may just get permission from China and India that what Russia is going to do is okay by them. Right. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Iran's military is also big, and Iran will be fine with it. Like, Iran's ready. Iran will have no problem if the U.S. wants to, if Russia wants to wipe out a major European city, Iran will be great. I mean, they won't care. But the Saudis will care, and Chinese will care, Indians will care. They don't really want to be dragged into a war. So they're going to try to talk Russia out of doing anything like that. Now, guys, the counteroffensive, like, again, what's your definition of failed? What's your definition of success? The counteroffensive has completely stalled all advancements in either direction. Like, the counteroffensive by Ukraine, it's not moving anywhere, but it's creating large death tolls on both sides. So this can't keep going, right? Like, eventually, Ukraine's going to run out of people. Though so can Russia. Russia could also run out of people, because Russians aren't happy that Russians are dying in Ukraine. And so it's possible that the Russian people will get too upset how many of them are dying. So I think the Ukrainian counteroffensive has been pretty damn effective. It's been effective in killing a lot of Russians. It has not been effective in conquering any land that Russia already took. But it's been effective in killing a lot more Russians than in a year past on average weekly basis, let's say. But if the objective is to capture land, it completely failed. But if the objective is and see, for me, I believe that the American objective in Ukraine is to kill the maximum number of Russian speakers as possible. And it's irrelevant whether they're Ukrainian or Russian, completely irrelevant. Or Georgian, or Kazakhstani, or Belarusians, or Uzbekistani, or any other country that speaks Russian, right? Armenian, Azerbaijani, doesn't matter. Like a lot, most of these people speak Russian. Well, maybe not most in Azerbaijan. Like, the American objective is very, very simple. The objective is, if you speak Russian, you shouldn't be in this world. That's basically the objective in Ukraine. So from that objective, the Ukrainian counteroffensive is very, very effective, because it has drastically increased the amount of death on both sides of the border. Like Estonians, Latvians, they speak Russian. Well, not all of them, but like I would say 20, say about 30% of Latvians, maybe 20% of Estonians. Not many Lithuanians though. I mean, anyone on the border with Russia will speak Russian. In Kazakhstan, like almost everybody speaks Russian. Mongolia, not so much. Uzbekistan, they all pretty much speak. All right, that's the objective. And from that objective, the counteroffensive is doing amazingly well. It's killing a lot of Russian speakers on both sides. All right, guys, I gotta go. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all on the next one. We'll take a look at a few stocks. Oh, my camera's not on. There we go. All right, bye, guys.